Chapter 17 Socio-Religious Reforms in India. Let's learn Reforms and Reformists, Reformist Movements, Working for a Change, Sati Abolishment, Widow Remarriage, Education for Girls, Caste System and Social Reforms, Combating Untouchability. Life was quite different 100 years ago from what it is now. Women had no or limited access to education. They were married at a very early age and were considered inferior to men in all respects. They were forced to practice sati and had no right to choose their husbands or to inherit property, while the men could have more than one wife. Some other social evils that were prevalent during the 18th century were the caste system, parda system, and female infanticide. People were considered superior or inferior according to the caste they belonged to. This caused discrimination and inequality in the society. However, the modern era has transformed and uplifted the status of women in society. From being just restricted to home, they are now excelling in almost all spheres of human activity. They are educated, possess equal rights, and walk parallel to men. Reforms and Reformists. During the first half of the 19th century, many reformists, particularly in Bengal, Maharashtra and the South, came forward to eradicate the social practices prevalent in the society. They realized that these social evils are hindering the progress of the nation and making the populace backward. To transform the society, many Indians formed associations which worked for betterment of the masses. Let us know about some of the enlightened personalities who worked dedicatedly to reform Indian society. Brahmo Samaj. Raja Ram Mohan Roy in 1828 Calcutta founded the Brahmo Samaj, originally called the Brahmo Sabha. His progressive views helped to change Hindu society, but these views were bitterly opposed by the orthodox Hindus. He was a scholar and was well versed in Sanskrit, Persian, English, Hindi and Bengali. He made an intensive study of Christianity and other religions. After that, he came to the conclusion that the Hindu society needed reformation and India had to acquire a lot from the West. He wanted to combine the right elements of Western and Indian culture. Debendranath Tagore and Keshav Chandra Sen were active members of the Brahmo Samaj. Info Hive. Rabindranath Tagore said, Raja Ram Mohan Roy inaugurated the modern age in India. He was the father of Indian Renaissance. He was the father of Indian Renaissance and the prophet of Indian nationalism. Arya Samaj. Swami Dayanand established the Arya Samaj at Bombay in 1875. The Arya Samaj did remarkable work in reforming the Hindu society and religion. It opposed casteism, child marriage, polygamy, parda system and sati custom, and promoted widow remarriage. A large number of educational institutions in India, especially in North India, have been established by the Arya Samaj. These are Gurukuls for boys, Kanya Gurukuls for girls, and Devi schools and colleges. Ved Samaj. The Veda Samaj was an extremely important social reform in southern India. The Samaj was established in Madras in the year 1864. Chembete Sridharalu Naidu was a prominent leader of the Veda Samaj, which worked on the same lines as the Brahmo Samaj. They worked on many social causes and raised strong voices for discarding all sectarian views and abandoning caste distinctions. They promoted widow remarriage and women's education. Prarthana Samaj. Mahadev Govind Ranade and Ramakrishna Bhandarkar founded the Prarthana Samaj in Bombay in 1867. The social reforms of Prarthana Samaj included introduction of intercaste marriage and widow remarriage, abolition of caste system and untouchability, dowry system, early marriage, polygamy, promotion of Hindu-Muslim unity, and spread of modern education. Satyashodhak Samaj. The Satyashodhak Samaj was founded by Jyotiba Phule in 1873. Its membership was open to people of all religions and castes. They worked for asserting the worth of man irrespective of caste. Jyotiba Phule emphasized the upliftment of the backward classes and worked to attain equal rights for them in the society. Ramakrishna Mission. Swami Vivekananda was one of the prominent disciples of Ramakrishna Paramhans, who later formed the Ramakrishna Mission in 1897. He expressed immense outrage over exploitation of the weak and showed genuine concern for upliftment of women and other socially backward people. Vivekananda worked for the educational rights of women. He laid special stress on conventional values of family life and chastity for women, but was totally against their subjugation. He passionately pleaded for extension of all educational facilities to women. Info Hive. The Vedanta Society of the City of New York was established by people attending the classes held by Vivekananda while on a visit to the United States to speak before the 1893 World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago. Working for a change. The main agenda before the socio-religious reformers in the 19th and early 20th centuries was the improvement of the position of women. They firmly believed that unless women enjoyed equal social status as men, no radical changes could be brought about in the society. Numerous social evils obstructed the upliftment of women at that time. Some of these were sati, practice of burning widows on their husband's funeral pyre; pitiable condition of widow who refused to become a sati; literacy among girls due to lack of female education facilities; child marriage, practice of killing the girl child immediately after birth, female infanticide; practice of having more than one wife, polygamy; parda system, where women had to keep their faces veiled. Sati abolishment. Sati Pratha was a cruel Hindu ritual in which the widow was burnt alive on the funeral pyre of her husband. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was against such inhuman Hindu practices and echoed his voice against Sati system, polygamy, caste rigidity and child marriage. The British were also against these evil Indian traditions and favoured Raja Ram Mohan Roy. In 1829, the practice of sati was abolished. An extract from Swami Vivekananda's address at the final session of the World's Parliament of Religions, Chicago, 27 September 1893. The seed is put in the ground, and earth and air and water are placed around it. Does the seed become the earth or the air or the water? No, it becomes a plant. It develops after the law of its growth, assimilates the air, the earth, and the water, converts them into plant substance, and grows into a plant. Similar is the case with religion. The Christian is not to become a Hindu or a Buddhist, nor a Hindu or a Buddhist to become a Christian. But each must assimilate the spirit of the others and yet preserve his individuality and grow according to his own law of growth. Widow remarriage. The condition of widows was pitiable in the 19th century. They were thought to bring ill fortune. Their presence was prohibited at any auspicious event. They were praised if they willingly accepted death after the demise of their husbands. Their social life was completely non-existent, and they were restrained from participating in any form of entertainment. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, a great reformer, strongly protested against polygamy, child marriage, and favoured widow remarriage and women's education in India. Because of his contribution towards such issues, the Widow Remarriage Act was passed in 1856, making the marriage of widows legal. In the Telugu-speaking areas of Madras Presidency, Veerasalingam Pantulu formed an association for widow remarriage. In Fuhive, Tarabhai Shinde published a book, Stri Purush Tulna, criticizing the social differences between men and women. Pandita Ramabai was a great scholar of Sanskrit. She wrote about the miserable lives of upper caste Hindu women. She founded a widow's home at Pune. Widows who had been badly treated by their husbands' families were provided shelter at the widow's home. They were taught to be self-dependent. Education for girls. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, along with many other active reformers, opened schools for girls in Bombay and Calcutta. People had apprehensions about the education of girls as they thought it would have a corrupting impact on them. It was also thought that educated girls would not find husbands or that their husbands will die young. Hence, many of them were taught by liberal fathers, husbands, and sometimes even by themselves. Vidyasagar worked endlessly to provide equal education to all men and women, irrespective of their caste, religion, and gender. He allowed people from lower castes in his Sanskrit college that was meant only for upper caste men. He was closely linked to Lord J.E. Drinkwater Bethune, who started the first school for girls in Calcutta in the year 1849. Story of the Nawab's shoe. One day, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar with his friends decided to collect donations to establish Calcutta University. He travelled across Bengal and went to the neighbouring states asking people to donate for the foundation. One day, he reached outside the palace of a powerful Nawab. After hearing his request, the Nawab took off one of his shoes and dropped into Vidyasagar's bag as donation. Vidyasagar thanked the Nawab and left. On the next day, Vidyasagar organized an auction of the Nawab's shoe and earned rupees 1,000. When the Nawab came to know about it, he himself gave a similar amount of money as donation. Mumtaz Ali was a reformer best known for his pioneering role in Urdu journalism for women. It was meant to encourage women to read about religion and domestic management in a language they could understand. He reinterpreted verses from the Quran to defend women's education. Begum Ruqayya Sakhawat Hussain started schools for Muslim girls in Patna and Calcutta. Some other prominent reformers who advocated women's education were Mahatma Phule, Savitribai Phule, and Kandukuri Veerasalingam, who worked for the upliftment of women. By the closing years of the 19th century, the desire for social changes became a part of a greater desire for political changes. National consciousness was taking a wider shape. Many associations and reforms gave their moral support to the greater movements in the country and worked silently to gradually change the society from within. Law against child marriage. With the upsurge in the women reforms, another social evil which needed much attention was child marriage. Many fought to make a law preventing early marriage of children, and finally in 1929, the Child Marriage Restraint Act was passed. According to this law, no girl below age of 14 and boy below age of 18 were allowed to marry. Brain tickler. What are the ill effects of child marriage on the girl's child's life? Caste system and social reforms. The Hindu religious leaders created the oppressive caste system as an essential component of the religion. At the top are the Brahmins, the priests and arbiters of what is right and wrong in matters of religion and society. Next comes the Kshatriyas, who are soldiers and administrator. The Vaisyas are the artisan and commercial class. And finally, the Sudras are the farmers and the peasant class. Beneath the four main castes is a fifth group, the untouchables. They literally have no caste. They are now called Dalits, which means oppressed, downtrodden, and exploited social group. The untouchables were prohibited from drawing water from common wells, entering temples, or studying the Shastras. The caste system didn't allow upward mobility in society. If a person's family comes from the lower economic strata in a society based on a caste system, that person would need to remain within that restricted level. However, in the 19th century, many reformers violated the caste boundaries, and an effort was made to make the society caste-free, where all are given equal rights and status in the society. Christian missionaries also established several schools for tribal groups and lower caste children. Brain tickler. Name some schools and colleges established by the Christian missionaries in India. Eastern India. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was one reformer who criticized the caste inequalities and believed that these could be removed from the society only when the Hindu religion itself is reformed. The higher castes like Brahmins and Kshatriyas looked down upon the Sudras and other lower castes. Ram Mohan opposed this horrible system of the Indian society. In order to make people realize that caste system is doing no good to the society, he introduced the translated Bengali versions of the Hindu Sanskrit texts so that all people and not only Brahmins could read and understand them. He considered everybody to be equal before God. Thus, ignoring differences among themselves, they should embrace each other. Some other reformers who worked for the same cause were Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and Swami Vivekananda, both of whom held that no Hindu text advocated the caste system. Western India. Jyotirao Govindrao Phule had a prominent role in bringing about reforms in Maharashtra. He fought for improving the condition of the poor and the untouchables. He was opposed to the domination of the Brahmins and started the practice of conducting marriages without Brahmin priests. Among other reformers were Gopal Hari Deshmukh, Ramakrishna Bhandarkar, and Ramabai Ranade. Southern India. Kandukuri Veera Salangam was very devoted towards radical changes in Telugu Indian society. The ideologies and principles of Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar made a great impact on him. He started a Telugu journal and wrote against the social evils practiced in the society. Chembeti Sridharalu was another reformer from South India who opposed the caste inequalities. Sri Narayana Guru was also a social reformer of India, born in the community of Ezavas at the time when people from backward communities faced much social injustices in the caste-ridden Kerala society. He revolted against casteism and worked on propagating new values of freedom in spirituality and of social equality, thereby transforming the Kerala society. Sri Narayana Guru preached the doctrine of one caste, one religion, one God. He believed in moral and religious universalism. He was a scholar of Sanskrit and built many temples devoid of images or deities. A stone was placed instead of the deity with a message engraved on it. It read, "Here is the place where all people are in fraternity, without caste distinctions and religious rivalry." He was the founder of Sri Narayan Dharma Paripalana Yogam SNDP in 1902. E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar or Periyar was a reformer who worked in Tamil Nadu. He came from a middle-class family and studied Sanskrit scriptures extensively. It was during the freedom struggle, when the lower caste were made to sit far away from the high caste, that he realized that caste distinction had rooted itself so deeply in our nation. He decided that the untouchables had to fight for their right and dignity. Periyar founded the self-respect movement and argued that untouchables were the true defenders of an original Tamil and Dravidian culture, which had been conquered by the Brahmins. Here are the pictures of Sri Narayana Guru, E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, Mahatma Gandhi, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Combating untouchability. Mahatma Gandhi initiated a nationwide movement against untouchability. He founded the All India Anti-Untouchability League and started the weekly newsletter Harijan. He declared that the untouchables were Harijans, meaning the people of God. He even tried to integrate them into the Indian National Congress and the freedom movement. He went and stayed with them in their colonies, shared meals and performed all the tasks of cleaning along with them. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Bhim Rao Ambedkar was born on 14 April 1891 in Madhya Pradesh. He was a victim of caste discrimination. His parents hailed from the Hindu Mahar caste, which was viewed as untouchable by the upper class. After returning from the USA, he decided to fight against caste discrimination that had almost fragmented the nation. Ambedkar favored the concept of providing reservations for Dalits and other religious communities. He began to find ways to reach to people and make them understand the drawbacks of the prevailing social evils. He started many newspapers like Mook Nayak and Prabuddha Bharat to spread his message. In 1927, Ambedkar started a temple entry movement in which his followers participated. They entered the temples and drank water from public wells in a non-violent movement. Recap. During the first half of the 19th century, many reformers came forward to eradicate the social practices prevailing in the Indian society. Many new associations were formed which worked for the upliftment of women in the society. Some of them included the Brahmo Samaj, Arya Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, Satya Shodhak Samaj and Ramakrishna Mission. These reformers criticized the caste system and worked to improve the conditions of the downtrodden and to eradicate untouchability.